let's start again. I was talking about Apple Pay and why their system is evolutionary and not revolutionary. I talked a little bit about how I'm an Apple girl, purebred, from 1985 all the way to now. I have owned nothing but Apple computers, and I was educated by Apple. I was the service manager for Apple in New Zealand, and it's working out here. Awesome. Okay. I was the service manager for Apple in New Zealand, worked for the Apple Store as a genius when the Apple stores first opened up, so I'm a true blue Apple girl. Okay, good. Fabulous. All right, so let's talk about Apple Pay and why it's not revolutionary. What I was mentioning was that these companies, these large companies, and we've seen it all in lots of different companies, okay? I'm just going to check here. Okay, we're not having any issues there. All right, I'm going to focus, and that fixed it, yay. Okay, not looking at Twitter or anything else, I'm just focusing on you guys. And I'm going to turn this off so that I don't hear that. Okay. So companies like to take a cost center and they like to move that cost center off to a profit center, right? Or to outsource the costs to somebody else. And that is exactly what Apple is doing here, my friends. And I know we all love to think that Apple is so benevolent and they're good for us, but the bottom line is they're still a company, okay? So basically, it takes about 7% to actually have a the cost of accepting a credit card, okay? And before, people were talking about 2.5% to 5%, but they're not really including the cost of fraud prevention, okay? So there's about a 3% cost of fraud prevention, which includes PCI compliance, okay? So for those of you who are consumers and don't understand what I'm talking about here, every company that accepts credit cards and holds credit cards must ensure that that data is secure. So they have to be PCI compliant, right? And so believe me, it's a headache. And I wrote about this before. You can go onto my blog, read all about it. Just type in PCI compliance and it'll bring out the articles that I've written about that. But basically, and the reason behind that is, here's why they have to be PCI compliant and why we have to protect people's credit cards, okay, is because this thing right here, this credit card, right, debit card or credit card, that whole technology is about 5 decades old. It is a total dinosaur when it comes to technology, okay? And when I give a debit card or a credit card to somebody, I am essentially giving them my private key, okay? Which is why we have to protect those. And the thing is that, okay, that's done. I'm still getting these notifications here. I'm going to get those out of my face. All right, so where was I now? No, I've lost track of where I was. Damn those questions. Okay, guys. I was talking, let me just go back in here so that I can get myself back on track. Revolutionary, Apple Pay. Okay, great. So here's what the good part about what Apple is doing and the actual service that they're providing to you as a consumer, okay? What they're doing, and it's smart on their side as well, what they're doing is they're taking the credit card information and they are putting it down onto this chip that they're calling the secure element, okay? What the secure element basically does is it secures that credit card information in that chip on the phone. The reason behind that is because then Apple can get the rate as a card present versus a card not present, okay? The rates are much, much better when you're accepting credit cards where the card is present, okay? And so by securing it on that chip, they get that rate. And by the way, what I was saying when my dang sound wasn't off is the business model behind this is that Apple is getting a cut for every transaction that happens. As far as I can tell right now, it's about 20 cents per transaction. Not 20 cents, 20 cents per $100. Okay, so for every $100 in e-commerce that goes through Apple Pay, they're making about 20 cents. And I got this from a Forbes article. I'm going to put that down in the notes down below so that you can see that. And any of the articles that I'm talking about, when we're done today, I'm going to put the show notes at the bottom of the show. And this is over on my website. You actually have to go to my website to see this. MidasMarnie.com, click on the events, and then find the event to find all of those show notes and the links. Okay. Now, basically, what this is it's evolutionary, right? They're securing the data better, but there's a lot of customers, unfortunately, that are going to leave their credit cards in the iTunes area where it is now. To be honest with you, it'd be a lot better to take it off of there and put it back down onto your phone. So it is actually in the secure elements, because that is a far more secure system, okay? Most definitely. But at the basic level, I want you to understand that this whole thing is like putting makeup on a pig, okay? It's still pig. You know, nothing has actually changed with it. It's still a credit card. It's still ancient technology, okay? And, you know, the thing is that when you've got something of value collected in one place, okay, that is a target. And let me get really real when I talk about that, okay? And this is September 11th. And this may be in poor taste to use this as an example, but I want you to be really clear about the understanding. The whole reason that those particular towers were targeted is because they held a lot of what they wanted to impact in one place, okay? Whenever you hold a lot in one place, it is less secure. Okay, so let's talk about that with regards to credit cards. The Target hack, the Home Depot hack, Apple's iCloud hack. Okay, whenever you give over your valuable information or your money to be held by somebody else, you are counting on them to hold it, but you're also now putting yourself even more at risk, because if they get attacked, you get vulnerable, okay? And so that's what I mean by, you know, putting makeup on a pig. With Bitcoin, it's very different. Let me talk about why Bitcoin is revolutionary instead of evolutionary, okay? So with Bitcoin, let's say that I have a Bitcoin wallet, and a lot of people, you know, they talk about Bitcoin not being secure, but no, it's the exact same scenario. Let's talk about Mt. Gox for a minute, okay? Mt. Gox, all the private keys were in Mt. Gox, so it's like having all your credit cards in one place, okay? The private keys were in somebody else's hands. Whenever they're in somebody else's hands, you are not protected, okay? Whether that's Bitcoin, whether that's credit card, whether that's a lot of people in one place at one time and somebody wanting to do bad things, that's where you get that vulnerability, okay? It's not Bitcoin that's insecure. It's putting your data in a place where a lot of data is collected together. And so the thing is with Apple Pay, the stuff that's in iTunes, that is at risk, If it's down on your phone in the secure element, it's not at risk. That is a better solution. Okay, absolutely. Now, do I like what Apple Pay is doing with moving forward the NFC? Absolutely, I think that's great because that'll allow more Bitcoin wallets and more Bitcoin applications to use that. I think that that is a newer technology. I think it's wonderful. Okay, but just think with me for a world right now. First of all, the world the way it is right now. I have 7% costs to accept credit cards, realistically. Realistically, every single merchant that accepts credit card is realistically spending about 7% in fraud prevention and processing fees, interchange fees, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. And they finally get their money between 2 and 3 days later, okay? Now, with Bitcoin, it's a whole world of difference. I can have my money immediately. And if we were all using Bitcoin, and the cost of accepting Bitcoin, because there is no ability, okay, when I actually send you money, you don't get my private keys. All you get is the money, which is what I wanted to give you. I didn't want to give you my private keys in the first place. I just wanted to send you the damn money, right? And so with Bitcoin, that's exactly what happens. That whole fraud element of it completely goes away, okay? So imagine if we were all using Bitcoin, and worst case scenario, our overheads for accepting Bitcoin are 1%. Now, doesn't that occur to you that our costs globally for accepting credit card transactions would go down at least by 5%, and if not 6%, okay? If you want the cost of things to go down, you adopt technology, right? And unfortunately, Apple Pay, the way that it's working, it's not changing anything. Nothing, the cost of it is not changing. Why do you think the big banks are jumping into this? The big banks are jumping into this because this just puts more money in their pockets. They're happy, right? And the thing is that the credit card companies are happy. The status quo is completely contained. Nothing changes, okay? Yes, the consumer is a little bit more secure, but nothing really changes, okay? Now, there's also the conjecture that, well, as a small business, now I'm going to have to upgrade to these fancy NFC machines. I'm thinking probably that there either may be a minimal cost, but not a large cost in order to upgrade to those. I think that you're going to see a lot of companies either giving them away for free or giving some sort of contract rate. Maybe some percentage will go up a little bit. But still, there will be a cost for them. Although it may be a minimal cost, there will still be a cost for the merchants to actually upgrade to these machines. Okay? But don't think for a minute that Apple is not making money on it, because they absolutely 110% unequivocally are. And I just think that Bitcoin is a much, much safer, better solution. It is safe. Bitcoin's safe. If you actually hold on to your private keys, and you can watch some of my earlier shows about how to take care of your private keys. And if you really control those private keys, nobody can get at your money, right? Not the government, not your bank, not somebody who needs it. Nobody can get a hold of your money except you, if you choose to control your private keys. If you put your private keys in somebody else's hands, okay, then yes, your risk of them being hacked, okay? So that's the real clear understanding and distinction that you need to realize, is that if you keep control of your private keys, and you know, the best way, a lot of people like to do cold wallets, And I think that that's great, you know, especially for a large amount of money. I think that cold wallets are great. This might be more high level for my people who are getting started. We'll talk about cold wallets in another show. But at the very least, at a consumer level, okay, if you have something like Green Address, I really like Green Address. They're one of my favorite wallets because it's a multi-signature wallet, okay? Circle is another multi-signature wallet, but they do have your keys. But I do like that it is multi-signature. So the way that's going to be going forward is these multi-signature web-based Bitcoin wallets, so that then you can have somebody securing it, but then you have to actually sign the transaction in order for, you know, people to be able to access that money, to make sure that that transaction is good. So I really see that as the future, because, you know, to be honest with you, most people, the mainstream that we're trying to get Bitcoin to, the mainstream are freaking lazy, okay? They're totally lazy. They just want this stuff to work. They don't care how it works. They just want it to work, and they want it to be easy, right? And so we really need to get to that place where Bitcoin is super simple for the mainstream, multi-signature wallets, then we can make sure that the security is there, because, you know, yes, we are educating people about how they can do it these days, you know, with cold wallets and things like that for a lot of, you know, Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, it's the multi-signature wallets that are actually going to win, okay, for the consumer. So again, just in closing, just want you to realize that Apple Pay is evolutionary. It is not revolutionary. And another thing, actually one very important thing, is that you know, it is going to be great inside the United States. It's not going to be so great in Africa or Afghanistan or any of these countries that are unbanked. And that's really where Bitcoin shines. And in the long run, I actually think Bitcoin is going to be much, much more valuable, okay? Because if I can only use this credit card, right, in the countries that accept credit cards, then I have a limited amount of customers, right? Whereas Bitcoin can be used by anybody in the world without a bank, anywhere, right? You really need to understand that, and without the fear of chargebacks. So now, literally, as an e-commerce company, I can do business with anybody in the world, okay? It is a truly global payment platform. And so that's why I think at the end of the day, Bitcoin is actually going to win out. Now, I am really quickly going to check my Twitter feed here and make sure, okay, that we are all doing okay. Don't turn off Twitter. Don't worry, I won't turn off Twitter. Make sure that we don't have any more questions here from anybody. If you guys have questions, now is the time to ask me them. Nice Apple poster. Yes, my Apple poster. That Apple poster, you know, I need to put some curtains up there. That Apple poster is actually a remake of the original, but these are very, very rare. That one's very, very rare. That was actually the remake. It's got the iPad on it, and that one was done in 2004. They did a very short run of those ones, and it has her running along with an iPod. So I cherish that. I will never let go of that. And thanks for noticing there. I was also in Macworld. That was when I was in Macworld magazine. The other way, there we go, Macworld magazine there. So as you can tell, I'm an Apple girl through and through. And yes, okay, I am holding Apple to a higher standard. This is not a revolutionary product. It is evolutionary, yes. Bitcoin is revolutionary. Bye, guys.